Hey, fourth grade, it's Mrs. Ramsey again, and we're back to do some read aloud with you. The last time we read, I left off in the middle of the chapter, or close to it, and Charlie was excited because he just was left the Hall of Birds and he was able to find um, his emu, which I think he saw his emu now that I have to go back and look. Yes, he did. It says check. And then the twins came to find him, and he is just gone into America's Best Restroom, and it was awarded in 2011. So here we go. I'm going to start off with right in the middle of the chapter here. That night, we stay with Mariana at her house. She lives downtown underneath an L train, which is what they call an elevated train track, in a tiny old house with a dirty carpet covered in Lego pieces. As always, they hurt like crazy when you step on them. Joel and Jake are cross legged on the floor with two of Mariana's kids building robots. Well, Joel and Jake are building robots. The little boys are maybe 5 and 3, are just throwing the pieces around. Why are you wearing that? The older kid asked Joel, who still has on Ludmilla's blue wig. Joel just shrugs. The little boy pulls it off and puts it on his own head. Mariana comes into the room with a baby on her hip. Nico, Luke, pick up those Legos right now. Dinner's in 10 minutes. Joel, Jake, help, says Ludmilla from behind Mariana. Charlie, you too. Why me? I didn't make this mess. The Legos are grimy and there are crumbs in the carpet. I see tumbleweeds of dust under the couch, and two of the kids have green gunk running out of their nose. We could get infected with some dangerous microbes in this place. My head starts to hurt, my hands itch and crawl. I ask Mariana where to wash, and she shows me the bathroom. In less than an hour, I've gone from the best bathroom in America to the worst. There's smeared toothpaste and a few long black hairs stuck to the rim of an old white sink. The faucet is covered with something chalky and white, and around the handles there's green mold and reddish brown rust. The mirror is smeared with dots and spots. 1 star, half a star. I try not to panic, but my heart is pumping. I tiptoe out to the kitchen, which is cleaner, flapping my hands the whole time. I need to use this sink right now, I say to Ludmilla, louder than I meant to. Mariana stops stirring the steaming pot on her stove and looks up. Okay. I wash. Yeah, so we forgot to mention my brother is a clean freak, and he's got some OCD action going on, Davis says from her chair at the little kitchen table. She's sitting with the grown up women, so she feels like a big shot. But we love him anyway. I ignore them. Soap rinse once, soap rinse two, soap rinse three, soap rinse four. I mumble to myself, grumpy. This is the first time I've ever done my routine directly in front of anyone else. But here in this tiny house where we are all on top of each other, there's no choice. So to heck with it. I turn off the faucet with a piece of paper towel to protect my fingers. Mariana raises one eyebrow, but keeps stirring a pot of rice. Do you always count when you wash, Charlie, to 12 like that? I don't say anything. Yes, he does, says Davis. He thinks he's doing it secretly, but we all know. He used to count to 11, and now it's 12. I shrug and look down. Mariana seems interested in all this. Why 12, Charlie? I'm 12, I say to the floor. Ah, says Mariana, is that so? Well, tell me this. Do you plan to still be washing like this all your life? So have you thought about how much time it will take to wash up when you're 20, when you're 40? My cheeks suddenly feel burning hot. I'm confused. I don't know what to say. Don't worry. It's okay. I know how you feel, she says. I used to count in the shower too, Charlie. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And it took me forever to learn to drive because I used to get panic attacks in cars. I couldn't drive for years, so I understand what you're feeling about all this. I was just telling Ludmilla how I'm going to college to learn to be a therapist now, to help other people deal with these things. Ludmilla nods. I remember when you were afraid to drive. I had to counteract it a little by little, Mariana keeps stirring the pot. That's the trick. Fight it bit by bit. Next time, Charlie, you should try washing only 11 times. Force yourself. Then 10 times, then 9, 8, you know? That's how you can do it. Little bit by little bit. I say, but that's like counting back in time to when I was little. That's not progressing. Mariana and Ludmilla and Davis look at each other in a funny way. But it is progressing, says Ludmilla, counting backward, moving forward, growing out of something that's holding you back. For dinner, Mariana serves a spicy sauced sort of lamb stew over rice. I can't try it, even though everyone is urging me to. I just stare at the bowl. The whole table of people is saying, come on, Charlie, you can do it. They are rooting like it's a sports match or something, but I can't. I can barely stand the sharp, nostril-panging smell of it. So Mariana finally breaks down and gives me plain rice and microwaves some old chicken nuggets from the freezer she says she feeds the baby now and then. They are shaped like alphabet letters. I eat a D, a U, and an M, and realize my dinner almost spells dumb, which is how I feel because even the baby is eating the spicy lamb stew. After bedtime, I lie in a pile of blankets on Mariana's floor together with Joel. Jake and Davis are on the couch. Everyone is softly snoring. I can't sleep. There are too many dust bunnies tumbleweeding around under that couch. I can hear Mariana and Ludmilla talking softly in the kitchen. The light over the kitchen table is spilling across the doorway and casting a soft glow across my backpack right here by my arm. Mariana's kids are asleep in their room. Kareem, Mariana's husband, works the night shift, so we might not even meet him. I'm kind of relieved. There are enough people stuffed in this tiny house already. I think about the Field Museum. Helen, the ornithologist, and the drawers full of birds. The museum is closed now and the room's dark. The lights in the beautiful glass displays of birds are turned off. I think about all the birds in the cases, always in flight or standing in sand or eating fake fish. In the middle of emotion, posed like that, forever and ever, night and day. And I think about that research lab. I haven't looked at the brochure Helen gave me yet. I slip it softly out of my pack and hold it up to the slant of the yellow light coming in from the kitchen. It says DNA research. There are all kinds of photos and explanations about the genome, the code of life, the arrangement of genes based on combinations of 4 different molecular building blocks named A, C, G, and T that determine everything about you, sort of like people Legos. Like whether you'll have blue eyes or brown, blonde hair or red, whether you're prone to cavities or to baldness, whether you're anxious or easygoing, whether you have a disposition for certain diseases or conditions. It's this last one that interests the biologists. They want to help wild species be more resilient in fighting disease and endangerment. I look at the back of the brochure. It's hard to read in the flickering shadow of the kitchen light, but it's a list of contributing research scientists. And there, at the bottom of the middle row, slightly set off from the rest, one name jumps out and makes my stomach flip. Tiberius Shaw, Ph.D. In the early morning, while we're still laid out on the floor, mostly asleep, I start to smell coffee. Davis is still there on the couch, her eyes open. We hear the clinking of spoons, whispers, voices. Mariana and Ludmilla are in the kitchen. Davis puts her fingers to her lips to tell me to hush. We both stay silent and listen to them talk. So you still were not on speaking terms? I hadn't talked to Amar in 2 years. I was so angry at him, Mariana. Why did he want the army? Why, after all we had been through? Hadn't he seen enough fighting, enough war? Well, maybe he felt like that is what he knew, says Mariana's low voice. All he knew how to do in life. But he could have gone to university. He had a scholarship, and instead he chose to fight, to put himself back into harm's way, into violence. I was so furious at him. I'm still so furious at him. There's a pause. I think Ludmilla is crying, and Mariana is murmuring things to her. Then Ludmilla's voice comes softer and lurches, and we have to strain to hear her words. One of the last things Amar said was about Robert, their father. Amar thought of him like a father, and Uncle was driving him when the IED went off. Mariana makes a shocked, murmuring voice. When I learned they'd brought Robert back here alive, I started visiting him. I wanted to help, yes, but I guess I was really hoping Robert would wake up and tell me something about Amar. Did he miss me? Did he ever talk about me? About our old life? Was he happy being a soldier? What was he thinking, feeling? Only this poor Robert, these children's father, only he knew. Mariana says something I can't understand. Ludmilla says something about surgery. Davis and I are straining our ears so hard we jump when the front door suddenly rattles open, disturbing everything. It's Mariana's husband, Kareem. He is wearing a suit and tie with a plastic name tag pinned onto his chest. He has to step over our sleeping bags one at a time to get through to the tiny kitchen. Heck of a night, he says, kissing Mariana. Double bookings, no one to take graveyard shift, half the staff missed the new training. He is carrying a notebook and a laptop. Davis sits up and looks at me. She and I have heard almost every word Ludmilla and Mariana just said. We just look at each other, trying to fully understand. The twins start to wake up. Davis and I don't say anything. We all struggle and stumble into the kitchen. Mariana is bouncing the dirty, checked baby on her lap now. Dirty-cheeked baby on her lap now. Kareem, this is Charlie, Davis, Joel, and Jake, she says. I don't look at him. Davis and the twins shake hands, though. Then Davis, staring at the laptop, asks an odd question, one that makes my heart thump. Kareem, would it be okay if I showed you guys something important on your computer? Davis goes over and paws through her purse, then holds up that little flash drive. She stands in front of Ludmilla and says like she's been rehearsing a speech. That night, when you first came to our house, I hated you. I didn't know why you insisted on hanging around our dad, and when I saw you snooping through his stuff in his office, I felt invaded. Ludmilla's mouth makes a round O. She says, I'm sorry, Davis. That's not what I intended. Davis shrugs. I'm over it. But now there's something I think you should know. She opens the laptop. I'm sorry I didn't show you before. She plugs in the flash drive. I saved some of Dad's files onto this, trying to safeguard his stuff because I thought you were kind of a snoop. He recorded a bunch of things at the military camp before he went, and I think that somewhere in it all, there's an interview with your brother Amar. Chapter 32. Ludmilla peers over Davis's shoulder, and everyone else crowds around. Davis scrolls down through files that Dad had marked. Soldier interviews, hesitating here and there like she's not sure what to look for. Finally, Ludmilla reaches out her tattooed hand and takes the mouse. She scrolls down through what looks like a whole bunch of video clips until she finds one that makes her stop. She takes a deep breath and clicks. We lean over her shoulder to read some text. Amar Divjak is 32 years old, a Bosnian war orphan who came to the U.S. with his sister. Amara lived with many different foster families, mainly in the St. Louis area, before becoming an American citizen. A brilliant student, he rejected a full scholarship to Washington University in order to join the military. He is requested to be stationed here in order to be near his younger sister, who has had a history of depression and emotional difficulties. When I first met him, Amar talked about how his sister refuses to see him. After their difficult past, she cannot accept his choice of a military career. He shipped out on his third tour to Afghanistan not long after this interview. And so, after a war-filled childhood with a troubled sister and so much war in his life, the first question I felt I had to ask Amar was, why go back? Why keep fighting? There is an embedded video, Ludmilla clicks. Her white knuckles are so close to her lost brother's frozen face on the screen. We strain to look with her. The video starts with the blurred out, bad pixel image of a soldier in fatigues. Then it comes in focus, and we finally get to see Amar's face for the first time. Even though I know, of course, he was real, it's sort of surprising to see the actual person. Something about Ludmilla's stories made me think of him as being from long in the past. He's sitting in a metal folding chair. He's got shaved, stubbly hair, and he's got one of those camouflage shirts with his name embroidered in black on the pocket. He's very thin, with dark, wide eyes. I startle a little when I hear my dad's voice start up. Amar, this is going to be, what, your third tour? Just for the record, why do you keep re-upping? It's so weird to hear my dad speak in normal conversation again. It's like someone punched me in my stomach to hear it. I look at Davis, the twins. Everyone is just fixated on the laptop. Ludmilla looks pale. On the screen, Amar is silent for a few moments, leaning forward in his chair. Ludmilla leans forward to meet him. She quickly fumbles to turn up the volume, her hands shaky. On the screen, Amar crosses his legs and lights a cigarette, like he's waiting for her to do it. Their faces look alike somehow, sister and brother. It's really weird to watch this and know that Amar, the man on the screen, is dead. Being on the screen like this, it is kind of like being alive and dead. Amar makes me think of those extinct birds preserved in a drawer. It's a job I can do, Amar says, his eyes slit against his cigarette smoke, and I need to put money aside for family reasons. My dad says, tell me about your sister. She had a hard time in some of those foster homes. I couldn't take care of her the way I wanted to, the way I promised I would, because after we came to the States, we got split up. I was sent to a military boarding school for only boys. Ludmilla got shifted through many different families. Some good, some not so good. I'd write to her all the time, call her, try to make sure she was doing all right, make sure she was safe. But it was hard to keep my promise. I was in military school all the way through high school. I hated it. Bullies, pranks. I got into a lot of fights. After that, what else was I going to do if I didn't just keep fighting? Mila ran away many times. She dropped out of high school, dropped out of college twice, and she's so smart. She wants to do something to help people, but she can't hold it together. I don't know if she ever will. And she won't talk to me, you see. She won't forgive me for being a soldier. After all we've been through, after the war, she says, why would I keep fighting? He drags on his cigarette. Well, why wouldn't I? Amar shrugs. There's a small click and pause, but then the camera keeps going. Amar exhales, leans back, and then leans forward again, elbows on knees. Okay, Robert, so my sister lives not far from you in San Diego, so I want to ask you a favor. His dark eyes stare wide at the camera, at my dad, when he says this. We're shipping out together soon, right? But I'll be deployed for 9 months while you're back in 2 weeks. Would you do me a favor? Would you check on her for me? Call her like a dad, like an uncle would. Make sure she's okay. He stands up and digs a piece of paper out of his pocket. Her name's Ludmilla. We haven't talked in years, but I know she still loves me. If she didn't, she wouldn't be mad. I know that's weird. Anyhow, here's her address. Amar holds out a piece of paper. She's all alone in the world. Would you reach out? The video goes black. Chapter 33. Mariana and Kareem look at Ludmilla. Joel and Jake and Davis and I look at Ludmilla. The only sound in the tiny house is of little kids throwing Lego blocks around in the other room, and Tiberius licking Cheerios up off the floor in the corner. Ludmilla sits like a statue, with tears streaming down her face. Wow, Davis whispers. Oh, my goodness, Mila, honey, says Mariana in a very soft voice. To see his face like that. Wow, I'm so sorry. Ludmilla stands up, sits down, takes off her smudgy glasses and puts her hands over her eyes. Typical Amar. Always such a take-charge big shot, says Ludmilla. She pushes her wild pink strands of hair up off her forehead with shaky fingers. So, did our dad ever reach out to you? Davis asks, her eyes very wide. Ludmilla says, he emailed me only once, just before he left, to introduce himself. She takes a deep breath. When I found out what happened, of course I came to the hospital. Robert was my last link to Amar, my last link to family. I was grieving so much. It was all just too hard to explain why I was there. But that's why you helped us, Davis says. Ludmilla peers at us through her thick glasses. That's why I started to help you, yes, because you connected me to Amar, because your father had reached out and tried to be kind, she sniffles. But now, we have spent so much time together now that you feel like my own family, even this crazy-looking dog. Tiberius is scratching at her knees with his tiny black toenails. He's licked up the last of the Cheerios. She lifts him into her lap, where he scrambles around to face the table and lick more crumbs. I say, when we were in Wyoming, going up the mountain, I thought the reason you came to help us was because you were going to sell us to a cult. Everyone laughs way too loud at that. It wasn't really that funny. Right, and that's where we're going to leave off today. So I'll see you next time for Read Aloud. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.